Those trophies behind Jonathan X, those aren't from Little League. Those are Emmys, those are Image Awards, and he is a multi-Emmy award winner. And he's going to talk about his life, which has such an interesting path. Artistic savviness is his MO, working a lot in sports broadcasting, in entertainment with Jimmy Kimmel. The list goes on. He is a director, and you can find him on Twitter at JX Director. So much to get into with his career, and his anthology of what he has worked on is profound, which makes it even that much more exciting to have him on. I'm Bryan Fenley, a national anchor at Fox Sports Radio. I'm on Twitter at Bryan Fenley, and this is the On to Something podcast. So, Jonathan, you've gone from working NFL on Fox to Jimmy Kimmel to major entertainment shows. What to you, through your lens, does the hustle and the grind look like from a daily basis?
At this point in the game for me, I just turned 64, and I sometimes I laugh because I'm still grinding, so that, as the kids say, but it's just perseverance, and really just if you, and I know this is going to sound like a cliche, but if you love your craft, if you love love what you do, and you have the good fortunate to actually make a living at it, it never really is a grind. It's just like a passion. It's just like something that happens and you're blessed and you keep going forward. And I think about, some of my favorite artists, Gordon Parks or Picasso or Dali, things like that. They worked till they died. Now, I don't want to die at work, but I want to keep working until maybe physically I can't do it anymore or something like that, but since I've had three surgeries recently, hip and knee replacements, I can walk over the set all day. It's no big deal, pain free. So I know I might get another 20 years out of the gig.
How much meaning in your life comes from what you do in work?
Well, in some ways, we are not supposed to be what we do for a living, you know? Um, it's hard not to say, I'm putting my personality, my character, my flavor, my flex, whatever it may be, into what I do. I've always tried to say, for me personally, love what I do because it's not really a job, but I don't try to project myself as, oh, look at me, I'm a Hollywood TD or a television technical director or a director now or something like that, because it's not cool. And I've seen that when I remember one instance. I was doing the Democratic convention. I think it was in Atlanta, Georgia, either 88 or 92. And it's like insane. It's like just insane. We finally get a meal break. We're sitting in one of the hotel restaurants. Poor waitress is just working her butt off, right? Just hustling, right? And then there's this one guy, is like at a table, and he was like impatient because, I'm a producer and I have to hurry. Do you know who I am? Blah blah blah. And we're all like looking at each other like, dude, if we ever do that, punch me in the face, right? So we all chipped in and gave her like $100 tip and
Oh,
apologized for our one of our compatriots in the business. And another time I was humbled. I went back to the Midwest to visit family, and we're at the restaurant and we're ordering blah 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 blah. And so the waitress asked who we like some water, right? And I says, well, what type do you have? And she looked at me. She says, toilet or tap, right? And that was like, I was like, oh, okay, I've been in LA too long, right? That was a really humbling experience. So to get back to your question, that all comes back to try to be a good person no matter what I do, no matter what a craft I have, but not let what I do for a living define me and reflect upon my personality and attitude. Even though when I say the word civilians, people who are not in the business could be like, "Oh, wow, you do that? That's cool." Blah 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 blah. And I guess a great, they ask questions. I talk to about it, but I try not to elevate that craft or that profession to be more greater than teacher, baker, fireman, police, everything else that everybody does every day, grinding, taking care of their families. I'm grinding, doing entertainment to keep you entertained. In other words, that one line from Frank Zappa, the brain police. I work for the brain police. I keep you subdued. I distract you from you know, from reality. That's what I do for a living. So I could be the enemy. And in some circles I am.
You're not the enemy to me, and you're not the enemy to those who go into this business and want to be a good person. And you're, as they say, it's very it's cliche, but you're one of the good guys in the industry. And what I mean by that, and Jonathan X is with us, I'm Bryan Fenley, and now your humility is starting to show because you're trying to
No.
discredit me.
I'm sure. Listen, 34 years as a freelancer. There's been a couple times where I've crossed the line, and I know I've crossed the line, and I acknowledge that. So even though now they say if you don't have enemies, then you haven't lived to your own personal values, or you've been a complete jerk to people, right? I know a couple times I've crossed the line and I've apologized for it. I try to make amends for it. So I'm sure there, if you dig deep, well, if maybe not even have to dig deep. I'm sure you can find people that will give you a lot of disparaging stories about me. Who knows?
Well, I don't see any from what I can see. And sure, nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
Everybody is flawed. But with that said, the general belief I have in getting to know you, Jonathan, is that you are a really good person. And that's not just on the surface, that is deep down. And in a business that you and I are in, and more so you work a lot more in entertainment, where there's so much about me, being superficial and ways in which you need to get to the top. Sometimes being the nice person doesn't always work in your benefit, but in the long run, how have you seen it work your way as a way to get to where you want to get to?
Well, there's one thing that on occasion I teach courses, and one thing I tell my students is, you can swim with the sharks, but you don't have to be one. You can be that dolphin cruising through, banking, just having a great time. Now, we all know there's those individuals that talk a good game, right? And they go from gig to gig to gig to gig to gig, and they just sing the Peter principle. They keep failing upward. Okay, and then there's others who work, and believe in meritocracy, nose to the grindstone, stay focused, blah, 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 blah. And I kind of fell in that category. It was much later in life. I was in my maybe 40s when I realized I'm not going as far as I should be going, So then I realized it was like the death of altruism and rational self-interest. It was like the only good things I ever took from an Ayn Rand novel book, right? The Fountainhead or Atlas Shrugged, one of them. But it was like rational self-interest. And that's when I learned how to promote myself a little bit more. In other words, do the good work and have the good work to show. And everything in this industry, especially as a freelancer, this is my 34th year as a freelancer, right? Is networking, right? Do a good job on every job that you do, right? But then I learned it's more than that. I need to start reaching out to mentors, people who could see things that I wanted to do, goals that I had, people that can support you. I tell my students you're going to run into two types: those who are secure with their skill set and will share and mentor and talk with you, and those who are insecure in their skill set and keeps everything close to the vest. But you're going to learn from everyone. Eyes open, ears open, mouth shut, watch, observe, take notes, keep a journal, network, collect names, emails, addresses, follow up. When you have a chance to have a discussion, express your interest, your career goals, what they're doing, keep updates with people. Like every year I send out an email, mass email, just a stupid little Photoshop, a message, just connecting with people. That mailing list is up to about 450 right now. Right. And I just, and I BCC, so not to blast everybody on a, copy, but, just to reach out and out of that, I might get maybe 10% responses, which is pretty good for me. And they'll say, hey, how you been? Blah, 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 blah. And it's always a different group that responds, or they'll see the image. And then all of a sudden they'll go like, by the way, contact so-and-so because they're looking for so-and-so. And then boom, 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 boom. Right. But to get back to your question, I tell people, maintain your values, whatever they may be, maintain your values, maintain your work ethic, maintain the ability to promote yourself, right? To learn to promote yourself. You don't have to backstab. You don't have to get involved in politics. You don't have to tear somebody else down to build yourself up. You don't have to be disparaging upon other people's skill set when they do. And then it's part of also what I call the art of collaboration, working together, building, creating, doing things, and team building, right? It all comes together into this like, it's like, I used to play drums in bands in school, and it's like a jam session. It's like you're really cooking. It's really coming together, and you're performing, you're doing, you're executing, and it's just a good vibe. So if you can maintain that positive energy with your crew, your producers, everyone, like even the people who check you in at the gate, right? Hey, good morning. Hi, how you doing? Blah blah blah. All right, brother, have a good day. We're gonna have a good show. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've told security or craft services or the person who's doing, now we have the health and safety cleaning teams, right? All right, blah 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 blah. All right, thanks a lot. Let's have a great show. And they'll go like, yeah, it's going to be great. And you realize, wait a minute, they're wiping down the handles because they're being COVID protocol. But I just said have a great show, and they look at me and says, yeah, we're going to have a great show. And it's like, temporary family, right? Is it really that difficult to say, I'm going to approach it this way and have that positive energy start looping through the soundstage, or looping through the building, or looping through, the time you walk in to the time you walk out. And so that's all part of that, swimming with the sharks, but not becoming one.
Yeah, Jonathan X is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. I am the belief, Jonathan, that you can get to where you want to get to, but if you are of the belief that you are, and that I am as well, not always, but I think sometimes it might take you longer to get there. But when you get there, you've got more staying power. So, you might not just go like this. It might be like this, but when you get there, you're going to be hanging on for a while. And the other part of this equation is that, like you said, it's not about, when you are publicizing yourself, it doesn't come from a mindset of look at me. You have to have a way to show people what you do. Yes, and so this is not connected to necessarily your ego. This is just getting the word out, because we live and work in a very public environment where relationships are everything. And so my next question for you is this: what was the most roundabout way that you got a gig from, like, you remember that old telephone game where you'd say a word and it'd go around the room and people where it sort of mimicked that, where you knew somebody who knew that person and that person and that person. So yeah, what is the most unorthodox route that you landed a gig from, like a third or fourth or fifth party?
I think most recently, the most recent event, you mentioned it in the introduction about Jimmy Kimmel. Now, season 1, I think they're like season 18 now, season 19. They've been on for 19 years. Year 1, season 1, I was the technical director for Jimmy Kimmel Live. Michael Simon was the director, and that's when it was live every night. That was a great year because Michael Simon does great music, and I love music, and we had so much fun. I think the first episode, we had Coldplay on Hollywood Boulevard. It was just a great, right? So I ended up leaving after season 1, and I started directing Tavis Somali for PBS, right? First I went to Ryan Seacrest show to start that up. And then 2 weeks into that setup, I got offered the PBS show. So it was an opportunity to finally make the jump from TD to director. So I rolled the dice. It was only a couple days a week, but I don't think I had kids yet. So the wife was okay with it. We had to take a chance. It's like, it's a 5-day-a-week job. Oh my God. Now it's, 2 days a week. How long will it last? Who knows? So it ran for 15 seasons, right? So then about a month ago, I get a phone call, and this is an extension of that annual email outreach, talking to people, letting them know what I'm doing, follow up, right? So then all of a sudden I get a call on a Tuesday. Hey, are you open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? I go like, sure. What's up? Because we need a fill-in for Kimmel for director. I go, you're kidding me. I love it. So I went back and I directed 3 days, right? And there was a lot of the OGs still there from season 1. It was like going home again. I'm in the building. It's kind of funny. It's like, wow, 18 years later, I'm back as a director, directing 3 episodes. And then last week they called me to fill in for a day. And it was the guest host, JB Smooth, right, from Curb Your Enthusiasm. And so now I'm doing a 4th Jimmy Kimmel within the past month or so, which is a blessing. But the funny thing about that was back in the day, during my early TV days, I used to do Comic View, and I used to do the show BET Live with John Sally. And JB Smoove was a young comedian coming up. He was a guest, and he was also on some of the early Comic View shows as a guest. So after the taping, I just went and said, "Hey, JB, Jonathan X, I used to direct, BT Live with John Sally, used to do Comic View, 20 years ago when we're all both, and now here we are tonight. You're the guest host for Jimmy Kimmel, and I'm the director." And we would start laughing about how things go full circle. So that was just like a little moment in time where it's like, dude, this is kind of cool. So there's those connections where people have helped you out, or people knew where you wanted to go, and opportunities presented. Is I tell people, luck, preparation, and opportunity. Those are the three things. And at the same time, finding, mentors and people who will reach out, and you mentioned earlier, sometimes, sometimes there people go like this. Sometimes you maintain who you want to be and who you are, and it takes us a longer road, but it's okay, because if I can really, really say, outside of the few stumbles I had in life as a person, my individual failures, or doing something that wasn't straight up cool, I for the most part, I sleep well at night. And even then, at this point in time in the game, I'm still trying to maybe make improvements and do well and do better and pay it forward. That's why I love when I'm teaching. I love that. I love mentoring. I love helping the young bloods in the industry. I laugh sometimes when I turn around and I'm working with the children of people that I broke into the business when I first moved out here. So it's kind of a good life thing at the same time, and at the same time being happy with what you do and what you create and what you participate in.
You say you can sleep right, knowing the way in which you've gone about your work. How often do you dream about directing, like when you're sleeping?
Well, I wouldn't say dream about directing, but sometimes dreaming about the creative process when there's things coming up that I have to think about. Like, I wasn't dreaming about the Governor's Awards coming up. I was thinking about it. And then, of course, this morning I wake up going through my emails, and this show's been delayed because of COVID. And I'm so bummed out because I love working for the Academy. I mean, that was one of the talk about roundabout. One of the producers that I did work for the Image Awards. I was the first director to do the Image Awards live, and we had a good relationship. And then he lost the show, and then I lost the show, but we stayed in contact. And then all of a sudden, he ended up at the Academy, and he had me come in just to work on the nomination show. And then I start doing the Governor's Awards, and I start doing the SciTech Awards, and then I did a special called the Hollywood Songbook of the two brothers who wrote all the Disney songs, and those opportunities. And then one thing leads to another, and it was always just wonderful work with them because there's a certain degree of excellence. So I don't dream about directing, but then I visualize sometimes and think about things, and then when opportunity presents itself, then it's like you apply some of those visualizations. Like right now, looking at the growth of XR in production. And then I reached out to a couple of the software developers, and then reached out to a couple of developers for a Real Engine. And then I'm trying to think, well, how can I incorporate that with that? And if I try to do this, could I do that? Then I went and visited a couple sound stages. Now, see, this is all part of the preparation. I don't have any gigs whatsoever on the books utilizing this technology. But the same thing that I did when I was a technical director was experiment, play with the equipment, and have fun with it. And it took me to another level. That's why I had such great success with NFL on Fox when we launched that in 93, 94 as the TD. I think we won Best Studio Show like multiple years in a row. And we did all this kind of cool, visionary, quality, cool stuff, because up until that point, I was a player with the equipment, playing around with effects, doing stuff like that. So now as a director, I'm seeing this happening, and I'm already doing a little bit of research about A, B, C, D. I see what they're doing with it, but how about if I take E and slide it into C, take A, put it after D, what will happen? Now, if I get an opportunity, I'm going to be able to walk into that show and go like, hey, this is what we're doing. And then I can work with the technical team and the production team and says, well, I was thinking, how about if we try this? And they might go like, oh man, that's cool. We haven't thought about that. Yeah, let's apply this to that, and then try this movement and this camera placement here. And then if it works for the run of show, the concept, it might be something different that everybody else isn't doing, because sometimes we have a tendency to be an industry of lemmings where we follow what everybody else does. Oh my God, page turn. Oh my God, the ripple wipe. Oh my God, the cube. Oh my God, some, and then you see every commercial have the same effect for a while until it goes to the next thing.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Jonathan X is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. So what I hear from you is that there's this genuine curiosity that you abide by, which allows you to chart out ways to be innovative when it comes to broadcasting, to push the envelope, to be forward thinking, and to hit on a lot of these things where it wasn't thought of before, it wasn't tried. You do it, and then everybody starts to replicate what you did. When you are trying those new things, and even I'm certain when you were with NFL on Fox during those early days, how would people deal with pushback from those new ideas? And how did you stand strong in your ways when you wanted to try new things?
Oh,
And you knew that there were people out there that had some backlash.
no, here's the deal. The thing with NFL on Fox, when we started that, it was the wild frontier. It was complete freedom. And I give that credit all to David Hill, right? Because he is like, I I was there for the first 8 years, and I never heard the word no. Not once. Not once. I would go in and like sometimes I would go in on Saturday and see what the feature guys were building, the features. And then if I says, oh, like some of it was just so stupid. It's like they were doing a feature that took place in New York, and then I would call and says, oh, can you make me a cab, a profile of a cab or something, and then created a transition wipe to go into the package, out of the package, because it started on the New York streets, and I created this wipe of a New York cabbie to transition in and out of the piece. It's little things like that. They never said no. Never. It was just like, it was just total creativity, total working things, really using hardware, software that has. Right now you have character generators that do audio, video, files, this, layering multiple channels. Back in the day, I was using that old Abacus A66 digital disc recorder. It had 50 seconds of storage per channel. I was using GPIs to trigger a digicart for sound effects. Then I was building the timelines to trigger the A66, where I would have the fill in the mat, and I would have to go manual recall a number, and then get the timeline, then run it, trigger, blah 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 blah. Now you have devices that do everything with just one button. Back then we were really layering, 4, 6 channels of still store, creating the little Klieg wipes, going from channel 1 to channel 2 to channel 3 to channel 4 for the scores over the shoulder. I mean, we really just went crazy, and it was a lot of fun. And I will just take a little credit for saying the way we approached that show technically, we definitely had an impact on all the pre-shows and how things developed technically after that, because there was a lot of cool things that we did that began to follow with all the other designers and hardware and software designers. So I'm going to, at least on that one, pat myself on the back and say that was our work.
Yeah, you were part of history, and you've seen how imitation has happened from other networks, and that
Yeah.
has to be the greatest source of flattery for you in seeing what you did and how people thought, I don't know what you're doing. I don't think you're doing it the right way. And then now they're doing it your way, which has to bring, like you said, a level of satisfaction with you. Jonathan X is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. Whether it's you in those early Fox NFL control rooms, or it's what you do with Jimmy Kimmel, or what you've done in other entertainment shows, when you're in the middle of a broadcast, Jonathan, and you're the director, what do you want, and what is going on constantly in the back of your mind as to what you want the viewer to experience, that you want to make sure you deliver for them?
Well, it begins with the event itself. It's never what, I hate to say it, but it's never what I think, want, and feel. It's what the project is. right? If it's something with, if it's serious emotion, if it's a serious message, if it's a serious speech, or if it's a performance, if it's music, and if it's an artist, this it depends on the subject matter because everything is different. So the truth is, when it's live, I do my best to be in the moment, what's happening there. I do my best to try to watch and listen, right? And then I rely on my AD to read for me. Because the moment I look down or I start looking at electronics, I'm my focus is away from the screen. My TD, they take care of all the effects. That's my front deck. My AD, my TD, my left and right. That's everything for me. I focus, listen, and try to be in that moment, and then follow the structure, the pattern, the run of show, what the producers created, the content, and I try to make that be my guiding force. And then the best part of it is when things go awry, right? We're producing left, and all of a sudden something happens that, wait a minute, right, and then back to left, and then wait, back to right, and then it's to be in that moment, and that's where the beauty of performance comes from, right? Not myself, but my technical team, right? My cameras to deviate, to follow, to come back, my audio to mix it, to blend it, to come back, to stage managers to inform me that something's happening here, see, go, come back, to organize movement and come back. It's really like a conductor, or it's really like the drummer just kicking, man, boom, boom, and we're going, and all of a sudden it's picking up, and now we're driving, now we're pulling back, and now we're locking into the groove, and everybody's is firing on all cylinders, and people are giving me cues. And I've had tape operators where something, the AD was busy with something else, then all of a sudden my tape operator would say, okay, 15 seconds left in tape, boom, kind of covering some of their mate as they're going through restructuring some notes, because they know I needed that out, and they'll give me that pad count, and then somebody else will say, oh no, remove that to Baker machine, excellent, thank you. I will not hesitate to tell any crew member on PL, dude, love you for that, thank you, boom, and we keep going. And then when we get through it all, when it's all done, it's like, how's everybody feeling? Yeah, that was a lot of fun, man. Okay, guys, I love you guys. And I say guys, that means all genders, everything, but it's like, I love you guys, thank you so much, see you next week. And then we all leave with a smile on our face and had a good time. I try not to throw people under the bus. I try not to be a yeller screamer. I just try to get excellence out of everybody. And even though Hollywood has this tendency to go, A team, B team, C team, even when I'm faced with C or D or whatever it may be, I always try to find the strengths in every position, what they're good at, what they do, work with that, and then give them the confidence to step out. In other words, we have a plan, A, B, C, D. All right. And then it's like, okay, if we have to do a A1, A2, A3, then come back to B. And then all of a sudden something happens. Okay, go B1, B2, B3, then come back to C. And then they have that confidence where I've been in situations as a technical director working with directors that were just so hammered, right, that people would freeze up. But if you can allow them to know here's your basic assignments, but if something happens, deviate, then come back, and then have confidence in them to say, okay, don't wait to be told, go for it. And if I get it, I get it. And if we come back and restore it to our default positions and keep moving forward, that's okay, And so that's part of that. So all of this is going through my mind as we're working throughout the day, reacting, pre-planning, pre-production, plan, but also react to things that are happening that are outside, that wasn't scripted. Because like sports, you never know what's going to happen. It's the ultimate reality show, right? So you have to have faith in your team's skill set to react, follow, come back, basic coverage, and then deviate from that coverage when things happen, because things always do happen. Same with music, it's like boom, 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 boom. All of a sudden you're watching Super Bowl halftime, Bruce Springsteen's go running camera left stage right, slides, and all of a sudden, boom, you cut that hand out because he's there, and he slides right into the hand, right? And you get that shot. And then and then it's like, it's like, because where your people are, So you see things like that. And that's why I admire, all the directors who do most of the live work, because it's a high energy, it's a very emotional thing, and it's a really point of focus, just to just roll with everything and enjoy it.
And I would think, Jonathan, that focus takes time because as you were explaining, inside the control room, you've got people saying things all the time. You've got people relaying things all the time that are doing different jobs in the broadcast. And my question is, what goes into developing that focus and how much time does it take to get there in terms of compartmentalizing what you need to do, handling the chaos that is going on within you, and then, like you said, not freezing up when all this is happening?
I don't know. Maybe it could be a personality trait, because there's certain things like, oh, you're so anal, you're Scorpio, blah 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 blah. But that's part of it, and the other part of it is just like when I visit other control rooms, I can't stand it. As God is my witness, I walk in and go like, oh my God, really? Because it's like, and I
Yeah,
like,
it's
I
tense.
got to get out of here. I just walk right out. So how do people do? And yeah, wait a minute, I do this, but it's not the same when I'm in there, because when I'm in there, that's my buzz, that's my electricity. But visiting, it's like, it's like, oh my God, So it's an energy that you tap into, that you let it flow, right? And then it's maybe it's part because when in my youth, high school and college, I was in ROTC, right? I was a military brat. I played sports. I was in bands. So it's always been about a collective for me. It's always been about teamwork. It's always been about that for me. So to me, this is a natural extension of all those experiences in my life. Like I said, military brat, ROTC, playing sports, playing the music. It was always the collaboration thing. So to me, that energy, all that is like, it's like my team, right? It's like this is my crew, and we're knocking stuff out and we're having a good time. And it's like, and that's why I love working with people with great attitudes, positive attitudes. You talked about John Densmore introduced you and I together, right? Love working with John. I've had him on a couple of award show projects down in San Diego. And just the creative contributions. Had it with me on BlizzCon a couple times. The creative input from crew and personnel, and it's just a wonderful thing when it really really clicks. And when it's bad, it can be really bad. But those are those are so rare, because there was a certain point in my life where I could, if I knew it wasn't going to be a positive situation, I could say, "Oh, I'm already booked that week. Sorry, I'm not available," and just take the gigs where I know I'm going to be happy.
Even when you're not working, I still feel like, Jonathan, you have that creativity gene working within you. Like you can't shut it off. So it comes out with your work
Yeah.
during broadcasts. But how does your love of being creative, how does that show up in other facets of your life outside of what you do from a professional standpoint?
Well, when I was a kid, I used to, when I was in Indiana, and also when I lived in Germany, I used to order the Berkeley School of Music catalog, because you would see in the back of comic books or Boys Life or something like that, Berkeley School of Music, and I used to order the catalog, and I would just look through it, all the music theory and composition courses and all that, because I was like, wow, but I was never really good enough to go to Berkeley. But this when COVID shut down, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take an online class of Berkeley and get a certificate. Bucket list, right? So I took an Ableton course, electronic music, right? So I took Ableton to learn the DAW, and then so up until that point in the '80s, the '70s and '80s, I would do a lot of film with I think my first movie was an 8 millimeter Kodak thing that I shot in Germany. I was like 12 or 13, and then as I start working professionally, and this is part of the playtime, we're done, news is over, nothing to do. I would go in the control room, put some recycled tapes in, play on the switcher, do this, do that. And I would work up 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift. At 11:45, we do our last sign off newscast. This was satellite news channel back in the day. And there was like a 5 hour window of nothing. I would edit, do abstract video, blah, 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 blah. And then I get done at work at 8 o'clock in the morning. I would go home, sleep a little bit, get up. Then I would start recording at home, right? 4-track punk rock, noise, blah, 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 blah. And then that next night I would go back to my cassette, dub the cassette, then edit the footage to the music, right? So I was doing all these abstract video art projects and submitting them to art galleries, stuff like that. So that was the two sides, the professional side and the art side, and that carried through. So then when I took the Ableton class, then I started going through all my photography and old video files and clips and finding and archiving and digging through analog files and negatives and scanning things and, going back to my audio visual art days, and then digitizing all my old reel-to-reels and cassettes of my punk music, and then trying to create this whole new thing. So that's the flip side. There's the professional side, there's the art side. And so I just try to keep things going. And of course, my all three of my daughters are into the arts, and they're filmmakers and photographers and graphic designers and all that. So we're always hanging out doing stuff, or I'm working with them, or they're showing me the stuff, or we're watching all the Marvel Universe movies together, or we're watching. But here's one thing. This is something that's actually kind of cool. We watch a lot of the Korean stations because they're big K-pop fans, right? But I watch because the production value on the K-pop, the choreography, and the camera cutting is insane. So as me and my three daughters are watching K-pop for various reasons, but they think I love the K-pop. But it's fun. But I'm looking at the production value, so I'm seeing this and that, and then we're watching movies and special effects and design and graphics. So it's been a fluid thing throughout my whole life, and it keeps going back and forth. And I try to bring it to work where it works, and then I try to bring things that I learned at work home for my own personal stuff when it works. So it's just part of just the life, right?
What led you to be so driven?
I don't know if it's just driven or just the fact that I enjoy it. It's fun, It's not bad because it's like you want to succeed, and of course having a family and being a provider and getting my kids through university and grad school, this that, and trying to be a good provider for the family. But at the same time, that was always secondary, because even during the whole process of raising three kids, the wife and I, we rolled dice. We left jobs and took other jobs and chilled, but we were prolific savers. So when things went bad, we still had enough money to survive, because we just, we take a percentage off. And I tell this, and I even tell this to my students is, look, if you're going to freelance, be a freelancer versus a full-time job. Have all your eggs in one basket, right? But take a percentage of every check and put it into your super savings account, right? So when things go down, you'll have backup money to survive off. You have your basic this, basic that, this, or if you incorporate this, and structure. So even when I teach, I share all these personal stories as far as structure of business and economics, because those are things that aren't in a book, and you only learn that through experience. So I give them that real world experience reference point, and then as far as the being driven part, it's really just I'm lucky that I enjoy what I do. So it's not like, oh God, I got to go to work. Oh God, I got to do this. Oh God. Now there was points in time where it felt that way, but as time went on and experience and an opportunity, then it wasn't, you could pick and choose, and that's pretty good. Cause I didn't go to like USC or UCLA. I went to Wichita State University, the Shockers. Wichita, Kansas, not the powerhouse of broadcasting, but falling from there, my initial jobs at doing volunteer work at the local PBS station in Wichita, to working at my first job at KARD Channel 4, Channel 3 in Wichita as an NBC affiliate, and then from there just doing volunteer work there and opportunities, and working at Kansas State Fair and rolling cable and through bull urine at the rodeo, and it's like, and then from there to something else, to satellite news channel, the home team sports, to WRC, and then coming out to LA in '87. So it's been a strange journey, but it's been one of just you kind of have a plan, but then you just kind of go with the opportunities that come your way, right? And make the best of it. And then one thing leads to another and make the best of it. And then when you get knocked down, just get back up. Or if you find people who are in front of you blocking you, I tell my students this way, if you find that negative energy that's kind of like, you feel like it's impeding you on your growth and your journey, go to the left or the right, above, below, through. But whatever you do, don't stay put and fester on that negative energy. You have to let it go and keep moving forward, because you can't, because that person is, might be a jerk to you at that moment in time. And then when they walk away, you're holding this energy inside you, and they're off being a jerk to somebody else. They're not even thinking about you. So it's almost like, don't give them free rent. You have to learn how to expel that stuff and keep true to what your goals and dreams are, no matter how difficult it is. And I also tell the students, keep a journal, right? Because even during my technical director days, I kept a journal called WWODD, What Would Other Directors Do? And so after every show, I would go home and write in my journal, oh, this is awesome. This is not so awesome. This is good. I really like how they approach this. This is great how they structure that. This is great how they did their cameras. And even today, I go back and I make reference to it. I go back and like, oh, I remember that person. I remember that gig. And then I go through it. Yes, that was good. Oh, I remember that, and then I have a flashback towards it. And then as a TV director, I kept my own journal of what I was doing every day. I mean, I can look up on my shelf now and see 4 binders over 20 something years worth of notes that I kept. And every year I print it out and I put it in the binder and put the year on it. And it's like, so it's almost like maybe one day I write a book. I doubt it, but at least my kids will have a journal of all the stupid notes and memos and notes to myself. And, oh, today I reached out to so-and-so. Today so-and-so called me. I need to follow up on this. Here's something. Here's a letter I wrote. And it's just a process of just, that information and flow that you create for yourself towards other people and back and forth and all that.
Let me leave you with this. Jonathan X is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. See, you mentioned the journaling, and that's been going on for many years.
Yes.
And yes, you have set yourself up to write a book. And I hope as soon as you write that book that I get a signed copy. But I want to ask you the current version of who you are right now, Jonathan X. If you were to open up your very first journal and look at some of the first things that you wrote, what would today's version of Jonathan say to the younger version of Jonathan then about what you were going through back in the past?
I would probably look at it and go like, dude, your rate's too low. Ask for more money. I swear to God. Because listen, when I left DC, I was a group 7 at WRC channel. Yeah, WRC 4, which was the NBC O&O, right? I was a group 7. I come out to LA. I'm there and I'm living up in the Hollywood Hills for like 3 months. It was total debauchery. I had to get out if I was going to survive. So I end up moving to San Diego. I'm in Ocean Beach. I go through bins of paper, sending out resumes, couldn't get anything. I finally, by the grace of God, got an opportunity to work at Jack Murphy Stadium. I was doing scoreboard. I went from a group 7 at NBC to doing scoreboard video at Jack Murphy. Padres, was it San Diego? They call it the Harvard of the West. Do you know the Aztecs?
Yeah.
And Padres, Aztecs, and then I forgot the Chargers.
Yeah,
right?
the Chargers in there too.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to be $80 a game, right? Okay. Then after the games were over, we would go to the press box or go to the suites and get all the leftover food. And then we would go to the beach and get a couple pallets and have a bonfire. This went on for almost like on my 3rd year. I'm turning into a beach bum. What the hell? What am I doing? $80 a game, and then I'm doing temp work, loading trucks. Right. And here's a funny story. So I'm doing temp work, loading trucks. And then I had to go to the bathroom. There was a bathroom building. I run upstairs and I look and it's a sweatshop. Same sweater, different labels. One box was Target. The other box was Neiman Marcus. Same sweater.
Wow.
That's what I was like, you got to be kidding me, because I know the price isn't the same, but it's the same item. But we're loaded. It's okay, fine. But that was very insightful. But that's the kind of work I did. Temp work, blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, Lorenzo Quick, God bless him, called Liz Blackheart at NMT, National Mobile Television. They were one of the big trucks out here for a while. Hey, would you like to do beach volleyball? 150. I was like, sure. And then that was the beginning of the truck work as a TD, right? So it's like, So the younger me was naive, but it's okay because I hate to say ignorance is bliss, but sometimes if what you don't know is okay, just keep going forward, keep doing your thing, keep believing, keep working towards it. I know it's difficult to say because we live in a capitalist society, right? It's all about money, but try not to make money the main focus. Make it, opportunity to develop and work on your craft. Make it opportunity to develop and work and network with people. Make it all these other things, and then I don't know. Maybe it's. I feel bad for saying it, but try not to make that the motivating factor. That will come. Knock on wood, that will come. But everything else, work towards your goals and dreams, what you want to work, and then hopefully it will just all fall into place, and then you can be who you want to be and be where you want to be, and everything would be cool. And then if you get knocked down, just get back up. Get knocked down, get back up. Just keep believing. Because the thing is, technically, if you really want to be a storyteller, everything, the tools and resources for the basic consumer are so great now, where even your iPhone,
Yeah.
shooting HD, GarageBand, creating original tracks, your MacBook or your PC has so many built-in applications where you can edit, and then of course file sharing, and then work with your friend who's a writer or a poet and take some of this material and try to interpret that. Find your friend who's a DJ, do some music. A friend who's into fashion, do some wardrobe. Be like those old RKO movies where they, oh look, the school's closing. Let's put together a play and save the school. Find your group of people, your collaboration, your team. No matter what level you're at right now, start building your team, or at least the experience of putting teams together, and then execute, do your storytelling, do your projects, and put it out there, and keep doing and keep doing and keep doing and keep creating. And then either somebody's going to come along and rip you off, or somebody's going to come along and hire you. But you're going to keep working anyway and keep creating no matter what you do.
And Jonathan, you are a living testimony of keep creating, of building and growing. And if anybody needs any source of perseverance or inspiration, they go right to you, because you've gone through it all. You've weathered the highs and the lows. You've stayed in the game for that long. And I feel like, as I wrap up this conversation with you, all of the knowledge that I've soaked up from this conversation, I feel like I should pay you for what you've done. But from starting out at a PBS local affiliate in Wichita to becoming such a coveted director in Hollywood, what a story. And you really are an artistic genius. And I am so grateful for you coming on and sharing your story with me, Jonathan.
I appreciate the opportunity, Bryan. So anybody, just reach out anytime, because I'm more than willing to share my experience.